Alright, what's up, yins guys? Time for another video. And this is going to be up the alley of a couple YouTubers that talk about businesses and stuff that their whole channel was like at. And I got in the back of my head, too, a YouTube channel that talks about different places to live and work, you know. And I'm talking about Western Pennsylvania, but if you want to make your area a metaphor for this, and I'm going to contain myself from rambling about my life story where I was less bald and my hair, with long hair, was less gray. And I don't want to make this whole video about pissing off my critics, you know, jealous because you have had money in your pocket or whatever, too, the days where I was pissing people off. But anyway, speaking for Western Pennsylvania, if you ever had a job out of minimum wage where you making a pretty nice paycheck in a warehouse, it being damn good money for being in Western Pennsylvania. You know, you might have it for a few years, 5, 10, 20 if you're lucky. One particular one I had was about 10 years before the company starts getting rid of people or end up changing its name or whatever, too. But it dovetails into when the late George Carlin and the videos in the mid-1980s said about the pensions that disappear when you get old enough to collect it. They just disappear. And he was saying that in the 80s, but you can look that George Carlin up on YouTube and see what I mean there too. But getting right to the point, any of you looking like this, if you had gray hair long like me, if you're black and any of these, if you're black and like any friends that I work next to, or even people like that are older, like any black people I lived next to in the former neighborhood I lived in, you understand what I mean. And this topic too is why people want to encourage racism, because they don't want white people and black people to talk about this shit and figure it out. You know, they want everybody to be blaming the other color and shit. But anyway, to the point. Ever in your life you worked, speaking for me, in Western Pennsylvania, out of minimum wage, you want to make your area a metaphor for this, and you've been there, you know, and I don't want to ramble about this and make this about the minimum wage, raising the minimum wage, but that controversy, that's part of it. I don't want this video to be all about that, but that's in it. And you don't want to say you don't want to see anybody get a higher wage. I'm not saying that in this video. My point to this video is saying, just like in conversations I had with both black and white people and people outside in the actual world outside YouTube, when they ever pay you a higher wage, and if you ever been in a job that was a higher wage and you got this money, all this money for overtime, paycheck that was like over $1,000 with overtime, say like in Western Pennsylvania you're at, say it's way, you're lucky enough, you know they really don't want to pay it, they want it back. And I'm going to tell you here, if you got this far and have the patience and listen to me in this video about me getting to the point, what I'm saying is, any time in your life that you ever paid above minimum wage, they never wanted to pay out of the goodness of their heart. For one thing, they wanted to reduce the turnover, for one thing, but and they knew people were underproductive, you know, too, at the same time. But they had no quarrels with. Some people wanted that bigger turnover rate too. They had no quarrels with that. But when somebody decides, oh, better productivity, you know, we can part with more money an hour, pay them more money an hour. Part of them, I think they don't want to see you happier either. But when they do pay it to you, they want it back. So what do? And they try to sell you, give you these, every once in a while. In my experience in this one company I worked for, they always bothered you every once in a while, every so often, every maybe couple months. Or get a meeting together and try to push and give people a pep talk about trying to sign up for these 401ks. And then this life insurance program that wants to, oh yeah, you might have a family that'll get all this money. Well, I don't want to ramble on and on too. They have that shit on TV, $20 a month or more. Oh man, you can get a $500,000 in insurance. Yeah, just that little bit of money you pay, and you're really gonna get all that insurance. They pitch you that bullshit on TV every day right now. But when you when you're working for a company, I don't want to tell you the entire story without rambling, but a lot of people don't know this. It's all ploy that they pay you a higher wage, and you're taking home a handful of money that you're pretty much living up with. Going out and eating and doing things. They paying you the money because they want better productivity, but they want it back. So what they do is they try to give these 401ks and these life insurance. And before anybody rolls their eyes, some people, like I said, both black people and white people that were friends of me, they agree with me and they know, and a lot of them bring it up. And anybody else that rolls their eyes at me or whatever and says, "Oh, that ain't right. I've seen right on the paper myself," or whatever. They don't. Bullshit. They'll give you anything on paper. Don't mean you have it. Yeah, it's like the late George Carlin says, it disappears if you ever try to go collect it later. They'll put something on paper, So many times, a couple people that I knew, that supposedly you had this pension from this other company, even though years later you end up somewhere else, but supposedly this pension you could still collect. Well, there was ones they tried to bait you with, right? By, oh, if you put an X amount of dollars, we'll match it. They'll lie to you. They'll give you something on paper like you have some kind of life insurance. They probably didn't put it into anything at all. They'll give you something on paper to say it's in somewhere. And fast forward a bunch of years later, the company is like not around anymore, or else you can research it like years ago, be under another name or something. That's a trick too. They don't want to pay it. Say they're paying you a certain wage and they want it back. Well, I'm not talking parenthesis too. My stepdad got onto a thing that a friend of his told him and all that. He worked for a trucking company once that was taking out the paycheck for Social Security, right? And I don't know how they found out, but he was keeping the money. He wasn't turning. He was taking it out of the paycheck. It showed it was coming out of the paycheck on that pay stub. Some whistleblower somewhere. And to make a long story short, my stepdad called the Social Security company. He called some people and got them in trouble. But that's not off the subject. See, that's what people be doing too. But anyway, like. I had these reactions like when I was like working this one particular company and all that. In my experience, when every once in a while they bug you, they'll call a whole meeting together, right, and try to get people to take the bait. Oh, we'll match, put so much in. They want it. They want the money back. It's all fake. It was fake from the beginning. And just like a company I worked for that whole bunch of years, it's not there no more. They changed the name and everything else, or it's just not there, period. And, that's the plan the whole damn time. Company might be around for a few years, or they might be planning I don't want to say contingency plan, but a lot of these companies, any of you guys watching know that may not be around anymore. They knew the whole damn time. Maybe they were going to be around for a couple of years. Maybe they'll say, okay, we'll stay open for a couple more years. They're talking in a smoke-filled room and some smoke-filled room. All right, we'll stay around for a couple more years. Give you a fake piece of paper if you're dumb enough to do this 401k thing or this life insurance, make you scared. Oh, you're gonna your family members should have you should have life insurance. This 401k, it's good for you, but you would get when you refuse, like when they called people at the meeting to try to talk them into doing it. Then later on, when you're not in a meeting, they'd come around every once in a while and have people go one-on-one. Oh, you want to sign this? Come on, talk you into it. You just say no. Everybody that used to be in the office all friendly to you, shaking your hand in the Christmas parties, they're just glaring at you and shaking your hand like what a wet fish. That they like glare at you. They're not friendly anymore. And what they would do, and I'm not going to pay too much details, when you refuse I'm just saying this to try not to ramble, but make a long story short, in my experience, over a period of years, before I knew what I was working, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, almost 8, and almost 10 years before job went kablooey. During later and on in those years, you refusing to get on this 401k and put your money in this life insurance and all this different shit that they were trying to pitch to you. You know, they would noticeably get mad and you'd get called in the office for stupid shit, not even completely pertaining to work. Really stupid shit that somebody turns around and made up, and nobody was even really complaining about at all, just to fuck with you, you know what I mean, too. Everything for accusing you of really stupid shit, like that said so-and-so was complaining about this and that, but they won't tell you who. Some kind of thing about your personal character, or something you happen to have been talking about to a friend you're working with, or something in conversation, somebody get offended, or then even all of a sudden out of nowhere you could be smelling like cologne, you know, real strong somewhere to a point, and you can get flagged some kind of hygiene thing, and they'd ask you or some kind. I mean, a bunch of list of really stupid shit, you know. You'd get harassed, somebody didn't like something you and a coworker or conversation, maybe you and them would get in trouble or whatever and be called. Really stupid shit that what they would do is waste your time when you're trying to get a job done and get something done in a certain amount of time, but yet waste your time when you could be getting the shit done that you're paid to do, to call you in the office to fuck with you, you know what I mean? Part of it was a power trip. And yes, it was a power trip, and because people would get harassed, the ones that wouldn't buy that insurance, different kinds of insurance. I'm saying this ballpark because I wanted the video to be for, you know, I mean, every single company you work for, it's the circumstances isn't all exact, so I'm making this ballpark. You know what I'm saying? It would vary between anybody watching this video that had the experience, but my point is when a good number, it's just not just all in my head. I talk to people both black or white around that I was in contact with different places, even outside of workplaces. Hey, former neighbors that were even older than me that were black, my friends that were black, and like I said, part of the thing too, people want to pull that racism shit because they don't want black and white people to be friends and talk about this shit. It dovetails into everything else go on. My whole point to this, when anybody pays you a higher wage and you got ever in your life had some really nice amount of money, they don't want to pay it to you, they want it back. And they'll give you a fake piece of paper if you were dumb enough to do it, a 401k, and there's all this fine print too. Say you're not working for the company anymore, you go get a new job. Say you did pay into any of this. They leave you to assume, don't even say, you go to another job, you can still pay into this and still have it. There's all kind of fine print hoopla. Part of this, I was listening to a radio show one time. I won't bore you with details in YouTube videos that talk about this. The late George Carlin talked about this. And anything that they try to get you to pay into, it was always when you're like making a decent amount of money, they don't want to pay it to you. And I may be repetitive, they want it back. If you did sign up for it, or any of your buddies at work signed up for it, they're showing you this like they think it's real. They'll write you anything on paper. Yeah, your buddies would show you this. I'm signed up for this, you should sign it up too. And you know what? I got shit to do. It's called putting some of my money in the bank, maybe going out, not squandering too much of it. Yes, I went out and ate and did different things, and I liked pissing off my critics that didn't like the longer hair, even though it's grayer now and balder. But when my hair, long hair was less gray and less bald, I pissed off my critics. But yeah, they want it back. And then when you look back on it, like any jobs, maybe any of you guys work for particular companies. You may be working for like maybe one or two over a couple years. You'd be looking on it, in on it. You'd be looking back on it, right? And you're glad you never fell for that shit. And there might be people watching that fell for that shit, at least in one company, then they wised up and they never signed up for it. But when you never signed up for it, I told my partner about this a lot of times. When you didn't sign up for it, they were mad that you got harassed different kind of ways. Every couple weeks, month, called in the office for some stupid petty shit, like not like I'm threatening to fire you, but to try to give you a hard time or whatever too. And but yeah, I don't know. I don't want to speak for every single person that worked for some so and so company somewhere that happened to have had a higher wage, but in my experience and a lot of other experiences, they would every once in a while get people in a meeting and go one-on-one, come out with the papers trying to get you to sign it, push you a couple of times to sign it, and then no. And it'd be like, oh, what if you have a heart attack and die? Don't you want your family member's mother to have money to bury you, and they have a big chunk of change to live on for the rest of their lives? No. Oh, well, am I supposed to be scared of that? And once in a while, these extra medical insurance things, like everybody's so worried about. A VIP medical benefits program too. Some companies pay that in there for you. A lot of them, they want you to pay into one or whatever too, but that's totally different. But I was basically talking about 401ks, things like pension shit. You know what I mean? I don't care what anybody says. One particular place that I worked for, they'll show you a piece of paper. Your buddy will show you a piece of paper, and the damn thing is fake. And I'm saying this because older people older than me try to collect the pension. Anybody, unnamed people that I know, company don't even exist anymore. There is no pension. There is nothing. Yeah, and late George Carlin was a comedian, but he just didn't go on and say that shit to be funny either. It was part of the whole thing. But yeah, they wanted to pay you the money, but they wanted it back, and that was their way of trying to take it back. And then when you didn't, a lot of us that didn't go for it, they got mad and you got harassed.